Aquaman has become a bit of a hit recently due to his appearances on screen in movies like the Justice League, as well as his own self-titled movie. But where do you begin if you want to get into his comic book history? Let's take a look. Aquaman, aka Arthur Curry, was created by Mort Weisinger and Paul Norris and made his debut in More Fun Comics issue 73 way back in 1941. He's a hybrid of human and the sea-dwelling Atlanteans. Over the years, Aquaman hasn't been looked at overly fondly by comic fans and is often the butt of many jokes, mainly at the expense of his ability to communicate with fish. But this doesn't mean he doesn't have his fair share of good tales to read. While the character did have his own series throughout the Golden and Silver Ages of comics, it was in 1989 that the origin of the character was revitalised in a one-off special called The Legend of Aquaman, then a 5-issue self-titled miniseries, both by the creative teams of Robert Loren Fleming, Keith Giffen and Kurt Swan. While Curry didn't have his own ongoing series, he did have several miniseries between 1989 and 1994, with the 4-issue Time and Tide series by superstar writer Peter David being a standout. This series dove deeper into Aquaman's past, and this is where he learns more of who he is, such as the fact that his arch-nemesis, Ocean Master, is in fact his half-brother. Time and Tide is an excellent entry point to Aquaman, and set the stage for the character for years to come. To follow this up, Peter David was given an ongoing Aquaman series to write, which started with a new issue 1 in August of 1994, and ran for 75 issues. This series is where the recent movies got their inspiration for the look of Aquaman, such as the long flowing hair and beard combo. He also lost an arm during this run, when the villain known as Charybdis steals Aquaman's ability to communicate with fish, and causes a pool of piranha to munch away at poor old Arthur's arm. He would later have a spear attached where his arm once was. As you can tell, this series took Aquaman in a more serious direction than he had ever been, and as was the norm in the 90s, he was given a darker, more brooding edge. Other than Peter David, this series also had writers such as Dan Abnett, Andy Lanning, Eric Larson and Dan Jurgens on board, which is a who's who of some of the big names of the time. This is a great series to get to know the character, and is a much more serious look at a character who hadn't been treated brilliantly up until this point. After this series ended, Aquaman didn't have his own comic for several years, but was still used as a major character in the JLA. He did, however, get another ongoing series in 2002, where he went back to a more traditional look, more in line with how he looked prior to the Peter David run. This series was hit and miss, and after just a few years, Aquaman was again without an ongoing series, although he did still appear in crossovers such as Final Crisis, Blackest Night and Brightest Day. As part of the DC-wide reboot in 2011 called The New 52, all of DC's characters were given updates to their looks and in some cases, brand new origins. Aquaman was given a new series which was written by one of DC's biggest names, Jeff Johns, with art by the equally talented Ivan Reis. This series had Aquaman with a more traditional look, with no beard and short blonde hair, and played on the fact he was often seen as a bit of a lame character by fans, but was more than a competent hero. The issues under Johns are considered some of the best Aquaman comics to date, and are available in handy collected editions. This is a fantastic series to try if you've never really got the appeal of the character, and maybe you might end up seeing him a little bit differently. If you're looking to start reading the most current of Aquaman series, then his Rebirth book is the place to go. While Curry started with a look based on the traditional costume, over time this has morphed to be more in line with the Peter David version with beard and long hair, which in turn mirrors the look of the movie version, played excellently by Game of Thrones star Jason Momoa. While he's never been the most popular of characters, and this is evidenced by the cancelling of many of his series over the years, Aquaman has been a mainstay of the DC universe since his creation way back in 1941. If you fancy reading something a bit different, Aquaman comics can definitely make a splash in your collection. If you enjoyed this video, please leave me a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm sure you'll like what you see. Get it? See?